This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
He has time.
He's got left side. Dobbs is there. Leaping grab. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Good morning. Welcome to another morning of Ken and Ken in the morning. Ken's making his special water. I have a special guest in with me. That's why my camera's not on. He's small. He's tiny. He barely knows how to say much, but he's here and he's looking at Ken while he eats his hash brown with a big smile on his face. Good morning, Ken.
Well, good morning, buddy. Man, he probably thinks I'm Santa Claus's younger brother.
Yeah, he's very interested in his hash brown right now. My pop and what's this thing he's doing and who are these people on the screen? And he's like, oh my god, it's a Timu Joe Rogan. How'd that happen? Dad, Pop, how did you know Joe Rogan? He's a very intuitive kid. He's like, oh, he's in a beep beep. Look, Joe's in a beep beep. Oh, he paused for a second before he took a hash brown bite on that one. Purdy got paid yesterday.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to end up being the swan song for Shanahan, that he's going to be tied to Brock Purdy, and I don't personally believe that Brock Purdy can get it done without the insane amount of weapons he used to have.
Well, they got a couple other contracts done in San Francisco too, didn't they? Oh, and by the way,
Kittle.
Well, no, there was someone else on. The Bears also extended Tooney yesterday. So there were some extensions. Bears extend Tooney. What is it? A $35 million extension. So now he's got the next 3 seasons. Little man's trying to move on me here. Let me find. There was another. San Francisco did another signing yesterday too. We see Eagles extended Nick Sirianni yesterday. Fred Warner, that was it. Fred Warner got an extension for the Niners. So
I mean, that contract I agree with, because Fred Warner's a hell of a fucking linebacker. I'm just not too on board with the whole Purdy deal. I would have made him play this year out first, but.
Good morning, Nicholas, and yes, happy Taco Tuesday, or as I like to say to Nicholas's group of friends that we have there on X, good morning, fuckers.
Hey, Ken, I know this is not going to make you very happy, but I got to give you a little bit of pushback on that. So you're sitting on the Purdy deal, right? But he took them to a Super Bowl, an NFC Championship game. Jordan Love got his money without taking them to any of those things.
Yeah, but look at the difference in star power that each of them had. That's my whole point of it. Yeah, I'm not arguing.
Outside of Green Bay fans, what star power does Jordan Love have compared to Brock Purdy?
That's my point. There's no freaking star power in that offensive room. Really, outside of the running back and Love.
No, Ken. Jordan Love outside of Green Bay has the star power of 0.
You might want to listen to what other people are saying from other fan bases, because a lot of them are absolutely loving him.
No, I agree with Joe on this one. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I know you're going to get a little homerism, and I'm down with that. And I understand it, because I'm the same way with Caleb, and he's going to be the same way with Gino. But outside of our division, outside of Green Bay, if you were saying, Love or Purdy, I bet you get a pretty mixed bag. If you say Goff or Purdy, you're going to get a pretty mixed bag. Like, look at Purdy's gone to NFC Championship games, Super Bowls. I mean, because also he was Mr. Irrelevant and didn't sit behind a future Hall of Famer for 3 years. The guy came off the bench after being Mr. Irrelevant and made not only himself relevant, but helped elevate the San Francisco 49ers. So I don't know if I agree with what you're saying there. I think there's more merit.
This is the same fucking team that made Jimmy Garoppolo look like an absolute superstar at quarterback, and we saw what he looked like without
stud. Jimmy Garoppolo was a stud at quarterback. Unfortunately, the guy, what hurt Garoppolo was a stud quarterback. What hurt Garoppolo is his ability. Little man's gone, so I can now come back on camera. What hurt Garoppolo is his ability to stay healthy. Garoppolo was an absolute stud on the field.
Hey, Joe, why don't you tell me what your thoughts on Garoppolo are as a quarterback?
Well, the version that we got was absolutely washed. But Jimmy was, in my opinion, even with the Niners, Jimmy benefited from an excellent team around him. And he always had issues with like certain accuracy issues. Like he got Kittle killed quite a few times. Got Kittle injured for the season because of his hospital balls. And then he did that to Devontae too. But Jimmy had, he had some qualities as a leader that the teammates respected him. Everybody liked Jimmy, and they played hard for him. They went to bat for him.
Hey, Nicholas.
Like on the Niners, at least.
Hey, Ken, just so you know, Nicholas has joined us on Plex.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so congratulations, Nicholas. Enjoy that. Yeah, Joe, by time Jimmy G got you guys, he was a little long. Yeah, and the injuries had mounted up. But I'm like, Brock Purdy, though, if you want to talk star power, he has – there's flexing on people, then there's plexing on people. That's hilarious. Look at Purdy has as much star power as Love or Goff. In fact, you can say he's done as much or more than either of those guys with the 49ers. So, I mean, him getting a paycheck was never necessarily a question. Right, we all knew that they were going to pay him because he has played extremely well for them. He's done what you want a quarterback to do, and to make it better, they look great. They picked this guy up literally as Mr. Irrelevant. It's almost like taking a UFDA and turning him into your starting quarterback who wins you games. So Purdy, he's deserving of the contract. Now the problem the Niners have isn't Purdy; it's that a lot of the rest of their team is falling apart, especially their defense is falling apart around them, because they are so hamstrung by their financial dealings that they're having to shed pieces that they probably don't want to shed on defense. Offensively, they lost Ayuk, but we all know that, look, if you at least got one really good receiver and another mid to good receiver, you're going to be able to do a lot. And they have that in San Francisco. They have a tight end that everyone would kill for in San Francisco. The running game has always been pretty decent. Their O-line has been good. So, I mean, Purdy is probably worth the money. How much are they paying him? I didn't see the dollar amount.
Something like close to $53 million a year.
So, basically, he's in par with what Love and all these other guys are getting. So, I mean, the only difference between what Purdy got and what Love got is Purdy took him the championship games and the championship game to earn that money. Love, they did it based on what they project he would be. And so far, you have to admit, this Ken, he didn't live up to that last year. So we'll see if he lives up to it this year. He was good last year, but he wasn't $53 million good, right? So, I mean, but it's on par with what quarterbacks are getting. So really for San Francisco, I don't see it as a terrible signing. I see it as, hey, the guy has been their starting quarterback now for a couple of years. They've had a fair amount of success, I think you could say, with him. So what? And here's the other thing. If you get rid of Purdy, what are your other options? It's like, I'm not even
for them to blow the whole thing up, because there's a lot of them that aren't too impressed with Shanahan and want Shanahan gone.
So Shanahan being gone might be a better argument, because like quarterback wise, it's like, look at.
I think they're married.
If Jordan Love does not have a great year, let's say the Packers are 8-9, 9-8. Love has a so-so year numbers wise, like last year. There's some really nice things you see. Then there's some things you're like, okay, dude, turnovers in red zone got to stop. Let's say that happens again. Does that mean Green Bay is going to walk away from Jordan Love? No. because once again, what's the alternative if not Jordan Love? There isn't another alternative unless
Yes,
you
but-
have a draft pick high enough to draft to get you a lottery quarterback on a good quarterback year. So look at, like, even if Love doesn't perform to the level that you and I think, or Joe think that his contract should be, like, okay, he's making 53. This is where he should be. And let's say he's like not. Let's say he's underproducing, and quarterbacks who are making way less than him are producing more. It's not like the Packers are going to jettison him. They're not. They're going to stick with him until there's a better option. The only thing it will do is they'll put that seed in their head, says, okay, we may have overspent on him. Maybe we need to start looking down the road.
That's what it would be with either scenario we're talking here. Is you start now looking for the replacement if they massively flounder. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow that you're going to get the guy's replacement, but that would be the start of the process.
And no, John, you can't call him a bust after one season, just like I can't call Jordan Love a bust after 2 seasons. The third season is kind of where you can start to do that thing. And with Jordan Love, I'm not even close to saying he's a bust. What I'm saying about Jordan Love is this year is his 3rd year as a starter. They paid him the big money. And look, we all know situation kind of dictated that more than – it wasn't the opportune way the Packers wanted to sign their quarterback, the way it went down. And look, they did everything right. It's just there was this guy named Aaron Rodgers who also threw up some MVP seasons and kind of messed up the Goody's plan. And, hey, the enemy has a say, right? And so he had to sign the Love to the money he signed based off 1 year as a starter, limited. He didn't get the normal 2 or 3 years of seeing a guy. And look, do I blame Goody for what he did? No, because Goody didn't have much of a choice. Because if he didn't sign Jordan Love, who was he going to sign?
Yeah.
You? Me?
It was it was part of the course for Green Bay. We did the same thing with Rodgers. We're doing the same thing with him. We're expecting to get an Aaron Rodgers type of turnout with it because they have a lot of the same qualities, and there's a lot of parallels to how the beginning of their careers have gone. But to caveat that, there's also an out in this contract to where if he doesn't live up to that hype, it's either you're going to restructure and your number is going to come back to earth more, or it's you'll be gone and we're going to find the next Packers quarterback. Now, with that being said, I fully believe in Love and believe he's going to be that guy, but you ain't bigger than the team.
And honestly, I think Jared Goff, he's got outs in his contract, is in the same boat. And Purdy will be – look, I'm not saying that Purdy's going to be exempted from any of this. Don't get me twisted. I think, though, the going rate for a starting quarterback in this league is so high right now that we shouldn't be surprised that Purdy got paid what Purdy got paid, because what are their other options if not him?
And that was the sentiment with a lot of Packers fans, that Purdy contract made Jordan Love's contract look good. Because it was you got all this potential with Jordan Love, and he's shown a decent amount of it already, to where, hey, we don't feel like, oh my God, we got hoes paying him all that kind of money because look what they just gave Brock Purdy.
And see, that was my point. Like when I was trying, giving some pushback to Ken, was that if we're gonna sit here and talk about well, Jordan Love got this much money, it's like, well, Purdy has an NFC championship and an NFC championship appearance, and to show for it. So if Jordan Love got that money, then absolutely Purdy should get that money. Even though they're different players, and you can argue how much Purdy had to do with their run. I think he had more to do with it than some people give him credit for, but I don't think he was the reason behind it. You know what I mean? I certainly don't think he took them to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying Purdy's some scrub out there,
but I don't think he's exactly a game manager either. I've seen Purdy make some great. I've seen Purdy make some great throws, man, and then I've also seen him make some really ugly throws.
Purdy, I mean, look at every quarterback has made. I've seen Jordan Love make some wild throws. I've seen Caleb make wild throws. I've seen every quarterback on every team make some wild throws, and also make some throws where you're going, yeah, he probably shouldn't have let that loose. But here's the thing, though, with Purdy, with Goff, with Love, Caleb, when his contract comes up, look, the market for the quarterback in this league is as such that these guys are going to get paid, but the GMs at least are smart about it. They're not doing this Deshaun Watson garbage because, well, they learn, right? Like the Mr. Rogers video, they're learning things and they have outs. But even with the outs, like, do we honestly think that the Lions are going to get out from Goff if Goff doesn't take them there this year, or if the Packers are going to do that with Love, or
not without a guy who can come in and start on the roster?
Because that's the problem is unless you're willing to take a 3-win season to get a lottery pick in the draft and hope that's a good quarterback year, unlike say this year, right? You kind of have to sign the guy and keep going riding the middle until you can either via trade or otherwise shed that contract. So you kind of like Bears. I'll give the Bears credit to a degree on this. They've been willing to shed these guys and move on and not be stuck with them for 5 to 10 years. They give them their 3 years. If they don't work, they move on. Whereas some teams might try to keep on to those guys and spend the money. I mean, because if they would have extended Fields and given Fields a contract, I mean, there have been Bears fans, and there still are Bears fans who have been tickled over the moon and overjoyed, and this is the best thing ever, and who knows where they would be. But the Bears are like, okay, it's been 3 years, it hasn't worked, time to move on. And that's what they did, where some teams wouldn't do that. And that's look at the quarterback situation in this league is tough for any GM because it's not like there's a plethora of them like there are running backs or wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go get some guy who was, maybe, was played for Philly or played for Jacksonville and just didn't work there, and all of a sudden he works on your team. It doesn't happen with quarterbacks. Geno Smith is an example where it does. But they're so few and far between. You have to almost draft your starting quarterback these days.
Yeah, it's like you take like the number 32 ranked NFL starter, right? He's absolute garbage, right? But he's the 32nd best quarterback in the entire world. That should tell you something. Like, it's an elite class that great quarterbacks don't just fall out of trees, dude. Like,
I mean, it's so the Purdy contract. Okay, I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm not surprised by it. But I think the Niners also. I just want to throw this in there. I think the Niners fell victim to that thing that all great teams fall victim to, which is when you have good drafting year after year after year, all those players turn into superstars. Well, guess what? Now you have to pay all those superstars, and eventually it becomes untenable, and you're going to have to let superstar players walk because you have to pick and choose which superstars are we going to keep.
I think
the Niners have been drafting really well for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and now Bill finally can do.
Honestly, they learned from Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota. Look how those teams are being managed with the cap. I don't think any of our teams have run into that cap casualty issue yet. And we've been extending our players we wanted to extend. The Packers really look at them because they have a good track record as well financially of not getting to that bind where they have to sell. They've decided not to pay like Devontae, and look, it looks like that might have been the right call as we look a few years past it. So, like, I think maybe San Francisco was doing some of that when they traded away a piece here or there, or let a guy here and there. We see like, wow, this guy performed well last year. But remember, we're only seeing what we see on TV. These guys are seeing practices. They're seeing more in-depth film. They're getting the trainer reports, the medical reports, and everything else. And maybe we let these guys walk. Yeah, they might have a year or two left, but they didn't have the 4 years they wanted on contract, so we were better off moving on and keeping a kind of a rotation, trying to set that, like in hockey. You know how in hockey on the power play to get that rotation with the 4 guys on the outside and the guy in the middle, and they'll just keep moving the puck in the rotation until the opening comes up for the shot. That's kind of like what GMs have to do with their personnel. Keep moving the rotation, right? And keep that a certain amount of quality there while jettisoning some stuff. And then when that shot comes, they go all in and pop their shot. And sometimes they score, sometimes they don't. So kind of a hockey analogy there. But I don't think the Niners have to tear it down and rebuild it. I mean, because they're not managing it as good as maybe some of the North teams financially, but they're still managing it good enough to be competitive and win their division.
I actually think that they are managing it well. I think the problem is not their financial management. The problem is there's only so much money on the cap, and you have that many good players that I like. So look at part of the reason the Packers have been able to stay under the cap and to extend the guys they want to extend. I mean, let's just be honest. Compare the Niners roster and the Packers roster. Like, you can go down that roster. Running back. Do the Packers have a running back anywhere near Christian McCaffrey? I don't think so.
Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs is good. Jacobs is good. But is he as good as Christian McCaffrey? That's debatable. I mean, maybe now, like,
There we go.
Injured and stuff. But we're talking about, track record. Look at receiver. Like, the Niners had Ayuk and Debo. Do the Packers have anybody near those quality of players? Look at linebacker. Do the Packers have a single linebacker on their roster as good as Fred Warner? No. Do they have a single pass rusher on their roster as good as Nick Bosa? No.
I will give you that one. I'll give a little pushback to where it looks like Edgerrin Cooper's that guy.
But look like it's are different.
That was my point, is that you have so many star players that, like, they all demand big contracts. Like,
it just looks like, to the outsider, for us, it looks like, well, they're having management problems, but really, they've been able to shed a couple of these guys and maintain. So they're in that cycle. And good morning, Broski. And when I bring Broski on, and this might be a good segue because Billy posted something in the comments, if we could, gentlemen. And I saw this last night. I don't know, with all the Bears talk about where the stadium is going to be. Billy, is that confirmed? Is it now actually 100% Arlington? I saw a snippet, didn't get a chance to read it, but we could actually finally, after the Bears have owned that property in Arlington, 2 years now? Now they might actually be building. And San Francisco's done that too. Their stadium they moved out of Candlestick. God, it's been a while now, but they've done a lot of things in San Francisco. Now, CMC maybe.
He may be over the hill now, but he wasn't over the hill when the Niners got him. And let's be honest, like, look at their career stats, like their career output. It's not even close.
Last year was kind of a rebound for Jacobs compared to the last two. So CMC had a little bit of an upturn when he first got to San Francisco. Let's see how Jacobs does in year two in Green Bay. But I get your point, Joseph, and they have stayed competitive. So the Purdy contract really, when you look at what's going on in the rest of the league, isn't John, maybe 2030. Are
they going to tear down Soldier Field?
No, Soldier Field is protected. Well, okay. Soldier Field's weird. It's got protected status, but not for the entire stadium. Only the tours on the outside. The spaceship that landed in the middle of Soldier Field could be torn down. And in the plans for the city version of the stadium, they were going to tear the stands and the field out and leave the columns and make it a park. But if they move to Arlington, I think the city of Chicago will probably let Soldier Field stand, and they'll try to use it for other things, like the Chicago Fire play there now because for whatever reason they moved out of Toyota Park, and they'll do other things there and keep the stadium. But maybe they'll try to woo an AFC team there or get a UFL team to put in there or something. There's been talk about Cincinnati moving to Chicago because we don't have an AFC team. That would be. I don't know if Chicago would support that, but I
feel absolutely terrible for whatever team is forced to play on that surface after the Bears leave, because we see how bad it's been the past few years. I can only imagine just how bad it's going to be, in the future to come.
Yeah, I think step one there is like they're probably going to put some turf, some artificial surface or whatever in there.
Yeah, who was it? It wasn't Brisker. Who was it that was on Barstool? They were asking about stadiums from the Bears, and he said he's like, well, how do you like playing at Lambeau? He's like, that field is trash, and they're like, worse than Chicago because our field isn't usually trash. He's like, actually, Chicago's gotten better at the field maintenance over the last 3 years. He's like, but Green Bay, this is his words, not mine. He called it a mud bowl. Like, it's basically a slip and slide. Like, okay, what about week one against the Niners a couple years ago? I mean, you want Justin Fields slid for 30 freaking yards. And they're like, he's like, but I think the North, our fields in the North be it. And look at Green Bay is going to be in December. Do you really expect a high quality field in Green Bay? No, you expect a frozen field. But I think
unfortunately, it's not even fucking frozen anymore because somebody had the bright idea of fucking putting heating elements in the field.
I think the outdoor stadiums, though, that's why most of these guys are going to like an artificial turf or a turf they grow outside and bring in stuff. I think the open air stadiums, I think it's harder for us to compete with some of these other stadiums in their field surfaces because of what our field surface, our stadiums are. I think Chicago, Green Bay, Cleveland will always be mud bowls to a certain degree. Come on, that field is open in the elements.
It's one of those things too. Like, and I just know from being a college football fan that it's totally within the realm of possibility that you can have a stadium that's outdoor and a field that's natural grass in an area that gets a lot of weather and still have a quality field. Like, I look at like Penn State. Like, if you go to Beaver Stadium, it is literally the nicest grass you will see anywhere, any stadium for any sport at any level ever. I mean, they get snow, they get wind, they get rain, they get freezing rain, they get everything in between. The Bears, it's just a lack of the city supporting the team. Like, it's a lack of their park service who runs the upkeep of the stadium supporting their team. Yeah. And the thing is with Chicago, they're acting like this is an afterthought. They're not giving any. They're acting like they don't want to keep the Bears, and that's why the Bears are officially going to Arlington. That new mayor of Arlington that just got elected, I mean, they had a deal worked out with him before he was officially elected. Now he's officially elected. Yeah, they're going to Arlington, and I think it's a great call that they do so. And honestly, I hope they just ground zero Soldier Field. I don't want to see that place ever again the rest of my life.
Is it official, or is it one of those insiders say kind of things?
I don't think so. Here's the thing. I think I think you're right. Like, I don't think it's like signed. The plans are all drawn up and it's signed on the dotted line. Hey, the deal's not officially signed. So I don't think you can say it's officially official. But what I will say is it does sound like it's like that's the last step. And honestly, it's not. There's. I would be amazed. Like, I would say it's like 90% now, and I'm very hesitant to ever say things like that because it's not signed, inked yet. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's going to happen, and I'm glad it's going to happen.
You know where I sit on this. I've wanted to go to Arlington for a long time because, well, they own the land and they're going to own the stadium and they're going to be responsible for the upkeep and they're going to be able to generate all the other revenue from WrestleManias and monster truck pulls and rodeos and whatever else they're going to do on that property is going to be all their money, and they don't have to rely on the city to maintain anything. I've always been a proponent of Arlington, and I got the why some fans want to keep it in the city on the lakefront. I get it, but to me, Arlington always, since the moment they bought the land, it was like it was a bridge too far. Once they spent the $1 billion, whatever they spent on buying the land. Like, I'm sorry to say, Chicago, when they own a big piece of property like that, what do you think they're going to do? Just resell it? I mean, they could have flipped it when they made money.
And the city is exactly, and the city of Chicago's nonchalant attitude the whole time too is kind of amazing. Like, they don't want to keep them. And then the thing is, the Bears take their time and do this the right way. I mean, it could really be something special. Like, it's going to be an entire like neighborhood / entertainment complex / just like hub of like not even necessarily for the Bears. Like, there's probably going to be there's going to be hotels, there's going to be bars, there's going to be restaurants, there might even be some residential mixed in with some of these towers that they build. There's going to be a park, there's going to be parking. Like, it's going to be a real complex, and it could be something that's really unique. I hope they just don't go cookie cutter with it. I hope they give it a little personality. But I think it's a great move.
Well, Broski, look at Cole Kmet's parents can walk to the games. They still live in Arlington. Let me get to a couple comments really quick. Lucas says, this one here. Yeah, I left this up for a reason. Joseph asked Joe about monster truck pulls in Vegas. See, the deal is a lot of these new stadiums, the turf comes out and they can replace it with other turf. So the Raiders, the turf actually comes out of the stadium and they can put in whatever surface they want for monster truck, whatever. So you won't have to worry about the actual game turf being used for monster truck rallies or concerts. Because now with all these new stadiums, they literally removed the field. Lucas says, I do wish the Vikings moved out to the burbs. I think we have the least amount of tailgating areas for all teams. The burbs, make some sense. Speaking of Minnesota, hey, look, it's our new paralegal, Sarah.
Hey,
Sarah,
shout out, Sarah.
Yeah, hope the new job is treating you well. How pissed would Bears fans be if Caleb throws for 3,999 yards?
Not very pissed because it's about an improvement of about 499 yards. They'd be like, okay, we'll take the improvement, right?
And it's also like 4,000 yards. Well, now it's a 17-game season too. So like people used to say that before based on a 16-game season. So it's a number. Like I just want to see Caleb improve. Like Joe said, it'd be an improvement of about 500 yards. So I would take that.
Hey Philip, this year it's not the Packers Titletown Center with like the little Packer Village. Actually, the first team that I can remember doing it was the St. Louis Cardinals when they built New Busch. Like this whole idea of making these little villages or little areas where it's stadium, hotels, shops, and all that has been around. And the Cardinals did that back in the early 2000s. Sorry, John. She hates working, but she hasn't been fired. So like, but this concept of like building these like complexes where it's more than just a stadium, that's been around for a while. It's just very few teams really have the wherewithal because they don't have the land or whatnot to do it. Like the whole thing with the Cardinals getting that, and the Cardinals' little village isn't even really done yet because they were doing it downtown St. Louis. But the original plan had like this little village attached to the stadium. They've got it partially there. It never came to full fruition, but that kind of concept, who owned the land, has been there. The Cardinals, when they tried to do it, they didn't own the land. They were expecting the state to do a lot for them, and they did do a lot, but not as much. I think if you own the land, teams. We're seeing what they did with SoFi. We're seeing what Jerry's done down there. Teams, if they have look at Wrigley. It's a neighborhood baseball park. Like everyone knows that kind of scenario works, where it's like a neighborhood kind of vibe and feel because fans will hang out after the game and spend more money.
And I think another
will hang out there and spend money in the bars at the stadium because they're still there.
Yeah, and I think another big thing to this is like transportation. So the access to public transportation, which this stadium would have, because the Metro runs a line right out there, right past there, the access to highways, the access to any other public transportation. So the Arlington location has that going for it. And
so that's not completely true. So because I'm very familiar with that area. My dad was the postmaster of Arlington Heights, actually. That area where the racetrack was, you have the Metro train lines run behind it. And then, so you've got like Northwest Highway, and you have the U.S. Postal Processing Plant, North Suburban was there, and then like an indoor soccer facility, a bowling alley, and some other stuff. Northwest Highway, the train tracks, and then Arlington International Racecourse area. Okay, that train does not stop there; it actually stops in the town. So yeah, they could take the Metro into Arlington Heights, and then catch a cab, or probably have a shuttle. They'll have shuttle buses, but it does not have a subway line or a train line that would stop right there at the stadium.
That's dedicated to it.
Yeah, it's close though. It's no worse than in Chicago taking the L into the city and then catching a bus to the stadium or a taxi. But it's closer to O'Hare. There'll be more hotels right there at the stadium, closer than what you have in Chicago. Because right now, if you look at where the stadium sits now, you've got the museum across the street. You've got McCormick Place on the other side. You've got LSD, and there are no hotels on the other side of LSD. They're more in the city. So, so Broski, you're not right, but you're not wrong because I think the node is a little bit closer to the Arlington as far as Metro is concerned. There is a Metro stop though that is right there by Soldier Field though. So actually, that Metro stop might actually be closer for that Bears train than the Metro stop is going to be in Arlington Heights. But the bigger point is 80% of the season ticket holders, guess where they live? Arlington Heights, Hawkins Estates, Schaumburg, Palatine, Buffalo Grove, Wheeling, that Northwest
Naperville.
They all live. So
Yeah.
they're not. So it's a little bit. People live there already. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit better from that regard. Sarah says, by the way, her boss says, whose boss in the emails at 1 or 2? God. Well, he's a lawyer, so that makes sense.
Mhm. Hey, Luke, I'm glad I'm not the only one who picked up on that.
LSD, Lakeshore Drive. So I'm happy that if the Bears finally make the decision, break ground, because remember, dude, Justin Fields was supposed to be playing on that by this season, wasn't it? Like 25, and then now it's that maybe by Caleb's 3rd year we might have a stadium. Maybe. I mean, dude, think about this. I'm like, they bought the land, and I think we had just drafted Justin when they bought the land.
Well, yeah, and the way I look at that, I think from a timing perspective is Caleb's second contract, with the Bears, like his extension or whatever you want to call it, then that'll be officially the house that Caleb built, and he'll be in there. But yeah, his first 4 years, he's probably not gonna. It's not gonna be in the new stadium because, man, that whole thing. I mean, that whole complex is gonna take years to build. If they do it the right way, for sure. And there's actually, Ken, if you don't mind, like I wanted to kind of comment on one of Doran's comments from earlier about the 49ers, if that's okay. I agree with what Doran said. Like, I don't understand why the 49ers aren't just tearing it down, because I think a lot of these teams, like what Lynch said, they're not in a rebuild, they're in a retool. And I know, okay, they're definitely a better run program than like the Panthers, but that's what the Panthers have said the last couple of years, and it bit them. And there's been a lot of other teams that like say that same thing. I think you really have to commit to a rebuild and not do the wishy-washy in between, we're actually retooling thing. I think that's where a lot of teams get caught in trouble. And the 49ers are already replacing 11 starters. So you might as well have added Kittle and Purdy to that list and just cut ties and moved on from them, in my opinion. I like Kittle. I think he's been a great player. Signing a 32-year-old tight end to a 4-year contract, I'm not sure that's a great move. Purdy, I just don't think he's that good. I don't know what to say. Like, I don't think he's terrible, but I don't think he's even a top 20 quarterback. So, okay, they didn't give him 60 mil or 65 mil, whatever the new going rate's going to be. But I don't know, man. It's just like to me, you bite it this year and you do a whole rebuild. But those are just my 2 cents on that.
Hey, Broski, but to go with that though, I think like you saw with a teardown, I think you keep the quarterback. Most teams now will try, if they have a young quarterback like the Niners do, and there is another option, which they don't have another option. There's 2 roads to go on, right? Maybe 3. One is you bite the bullet and you're going to suck for a couple year or 2 or maybe 3 and be a 3-win, 4-win team for a couple years, and you start to amass players. Look what Chicago's done. Look what the Lions did. Look what the Vikings are doing. The Packers don't play into this. They're a different scenario, right? So you can do it that way. And look, there's hopefully we'll see some success in Chicago with that this year. The Lions have had it. The Vikings have had it. So you can go that route. Or you could do maybe more what they did with the Chargers. You kind of strip down the offense, but you keep your quarterback and you start putting new pieces around them, because quarterbacks, well, let's face it, they're a little harder to come by. We as Bears fans know this more than most. So if you've got a guy that you have some belief in that can be a long-term guy, you tear down around him. So you don't want to let him get him killed either. So you can go that route, or you can do kind of what Green Bay's done. Sit in mediocrity. Like, you're always going to be good, right? You're always going to be a good team and competitive, but you're never going to be able to, unless you go out in free agency and buy it, draft the pieces that are going to push you over the top, because you're always late in every round. You're always getting the late guy in the first, the late guy in the second, the late guy in the third. So, yeah, you're adding talent, but you're not adding the top-end talent in each round. So, yeah, you're always going to be good. You're always going to be good for 9 to 10 wins, and you're going to win a couple divisions, but you're not going to compete with the teams in the long term. The teams that are going to win the Super Bowls are the ones that tore down and rebuilt, right? So there's kind of like 3 ways you can look at it. And the Packers way has a certain ring to it, and I think maybe that's where the Niners are trying to go. They're trying to kind of emulate the Packers to a certain degree. They draft well. The Packers draft well. There's some similarities there, they're each going to get their shots if with maintaining really tough in the division where they're going to maybe have those seasons where they do get a moonshot to a Super Bowl, but they're not going to. They're going to have more prolonged success without winning it all, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's worked for the Packers. Packer fans.
It's pretty much how it's almost how you view how your team should be. Do you want to build a team that's going to be in the playoffs year in and year out, so you got the shot to go to the Super Bowl, or do you go all in and try to do absolutely everything you can to win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years?
And I think if you look at the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears, they're somewhat now going to try to emulate what the Packers have done. Like, they've done the strip down mode, right? And they've built these 3 teams up, and that's why the North is as good as the North is. Now, the question is going to be, are they going to be able in their front offices to maintain kind of like Green Bay does? And I think San Francisco is trying to figure that out for themselves. Can they use that Green Bay model? Keep Purdy, keep some of their star players, rotate other people through and stay competitive in their division. Because look, all you have to do is get to the playoffs, right? You could be the worst team that makes the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. We've seen that happen. The Giants, hello.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think that's maybe Broski where they're going, because Purdy's not. Yeah, I mean, like, look at would I trade the farm for him? No GM would. But at the same time, like, if not Purdy, what else is out there unless you go to the completely strip it down, go to winning 3 games and have a miserable fan base for a year or two scenario? And I think a lot of teams are hesitant to do that. Like, and there are some teams in some markets who can't do that because they know their stadium will be empty. Green Bay could do it. Chicago could do it because why? We know people are going to show up day in and day out regardless. Can Miami do that? No. Can the Giants do it? Yeah, they can kind of get away with it. There are certain franchises that can kind of get away with it. Could Pittsburgh do it? Yeah, they could.
I was going to say the Giants have been winning 4 games and they haven't even stripped it down. So
yeah, Could the Raiders do it? No, the Raiders couldn't do that in Vegas because they're a very transient city. So there are certain teams who can do what you're proposing, Broski, but then there are teams who have to kind of do that Green Bay model. But like, look at the Bears fans have proven we'll go to games when they win 3 games in a season. Packer fans would definitely go to, if they won 3 games, they would still sell out Lambeau. The Vikings will still sell out US Bank. There are certain teams that could strip it down like that and go bare bones, tell the fans, look, we are going to freaking suck for the next 2 years. And the fans will still show. And then there are teams when they say that, they're like, well, enjoy an empty stadium.
I actually,
and my thing, I'm really curious to see what happens. Like, okay, so they have Purdy, they locked him in. So now the 49ers only win 5 or 6 games this year. Now they're in position to draft a quarterback in a much better quarterback class, with the first round pick. So what do? You know what I mean? Are you just going to, because Purdy's not all that. You could definitely draft a quarterback, you know what I mean, that's probably going to have a better, like a much higher ceiling than Purdy. But now you kind of limit yourself because you already locked him in. I'm a big fan of like just bite it 1 year and then build the rest of the team, and then that next season find your quarterback and drop them in, because the 49ers, like you said, they are a very good drafting team, and I think they had 11 draft picks this past draft.
Yeah, but Broski, with the Jordan Love contract, with the Jared Goff contract, with this contract, they have outs. The GMs are getting smart with these contracts for these quarterbacks.
For sure, but he just signed it too, so it's like it's probably not going to be this year or next year. You know what I mean?
2 years minimum before you got an out.
Yeah.
But I agree with Broski. I actually have been saying that I think the Niners should tear it down, and like to me, it's crazy that they haven't, because the Niners have shown over the past 5 to 7 years how well they draft. Like, you should have some confidence in yourself. And if you think about like all the star players that they're paying right now, if they were to just have a fire sale, they could jumpstart their rebuild with a whole shitload of top quality. Like, I guarantee you there's a team out there right now, even with his new contract, that'll give a first round pick for Fred Warner right now.
So Joe Broski,
then you have Kittle, you can get a 3rd round pick, right? Like,
a second.
The only person on that team that would be untouchable to me is Bosa. I would keep Bosa and I would strip the rest of it down, dude.
So look at who says the Niners can't do that? The trade deadline after season's going south.
Yeah, they still could. but it's going to lower the prices because at the trade deadline, you're not going to get what you would in the off season.
And then here's the other thing too, Broski. Like, let's say the Niners suck this year and they draft a quarterback, top 10, top 15 next year. Having one more year of Purdy is not a bad thing because they don't have the pressure of starting that quarterback in year one. He can sit on the bench for Purdy for a year. Then they can cut ties with Purdy and they're out, and the new kid takes over. So from that perspective, because what's one of the things that last summer we talked about a lot, man, all these rookie quarterbacks being pressured to start from day one is different than it was in years past where, dude, it didn't matter where you got picked. And if you were a number one pick, you still sat on the bench for a year or two in this league as a quarterback. And now, since you had your guys like Andrew Luck and guys like that who came in right away and became more prevalent that if you're a top 10 pick, you're starting year one. Right now, it's almost if you're anywhere in the first round, you start year one. Now, that's almost the expectation, but let's be honest. A decade or two ago, that wasn't it, and I think those quarterbacks had longer, better careers because of it. And this cycling in and out of quarterbacks was a lot less than what we have now. So, I mean, if that were the 49ers scenario, and they get, let's say they luck out and get Manning next year in the draft, they can start Purdy next year and train up Manning and then cut Purdy and become the Manning era.
Well, I think a lot of this of why you're seeing so many guys shoved into the starting role immediately goes to a point that Tom Brady made about the game being less cerebral now, that it's more paint by numbers type of stuff, and there's a lot more transition from the college game to where, hey, these guys relatively know the offenses that we're going to be putting them in, to where it used to be in years past that you had to study a shit ton to learn an NFL offense and where you're able to throw and not send your guy to the hospital or the fucking morgue.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Also, Nicholas, for those, we had space on X last night. Please don't forget, if you're on X, Nicholas will have a space here later today. He usually does them daily. His spaces are a fun time. Also, because JB was here this morning, don't forget JB will follow us in about 13 minutes here on the network. So some network and non-network stuff. And Nicholas has been a fan of the network here. He's popped up on a few shows. So if you're on X, go join his space as well. Support those who support us. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how we see some of these cycles and what works and what doesn't work. Because honestly, look at the way the Packers done it. Has it worked? You could say, yeah, there's been some moderate success there, but they haven't been getting championships. You could look at the way the Lions and the Bears, that model, to strip it all down and build it up. And some teams have done that, and they've won a Lombardi. Then you got teams that just haven't figured it out all. I don't know if anyone's yet to really figure out the code of how you maintain once you get your team to a level. I mean, you can look at the Patriots, you can look at Kansas City, but I don't think anyone's cracked.
They're the outliers that have completely fucked up the narrative for the rest of the league of, oh, well, if you have a great quarterback and a great coach, you should just be winning Super Bowls like this, when that's the complete exception to the rule because of how hard it is to win a Super Bowl. Look at all these teams that haven't even sniffed a Super Bowl in 30 years, let alone won one.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know what model breeds success. I mean, I think we're seeing the North is gone kind of with two of the teams are complete rebuilds. The Vikings were never a complete rebuild; they were kind of the retool in certain ways. And Green Bay is just kind of maintained this certain level. And I think that everyone wants to kind of be where Green Bay is to a degree, but wants to be able to get the. I think the one thing where if I could be anything critical about Green Bay, because I thought the way they drafted Jordan Love, the plan they had in place and all that was really good. I think if there's anything you could ding Green Bay on is aggressiveness when it comes to acquiring talent. Like sometimes I think Green Bay fans would even say they should be more aggressive and maybe trading up to get a guy in the draft, spending money. And last year they spent a little bit of money, which was a departure for them and a welcome one from Packer fans. But then you come back to this year, minus drafting a wide receiver in the first round. That was the thing. They weren't really super aggressive with free agency.
I think that had more to do with the perceived team holes of the couple that we had. Goody figured that he could address it just with the draft versus last year. We had some glaring holes that we need an immediate fix right now.
And I think I've said this before. If you look at the Packers, when they have gone out and spent big money and been aggressive, what happened? The Minister of Defense is what happened, and they won a Super Bowl. And I don't know why Green Bay doesn't get more aggressive at certain times. Like, they probably should have 2 or 3 more Super Bowls if they would have been a little more aggressive.
I will preach this until there's no air left in my lungs. Ted Thompson is the reason why Aaron Rodgers only has 1 fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the same thing I'm noticing, like with Detroit now. It's like the last 2 off seasons, they're sitting on $40-something million in cap space. It's like, so you're telling me you're a Super Bowl contender? You think this is your window to win a Super Bowl, and you're not even gonna spend all your cap? Like, that's chicken shit in my book.
That's what I used to bitch with Ted Thompson about.
Yeah,
I've had the running joke for years that Ted Thompson was trying to make it to where he won the offseason award of the most money left over from your cap at the end of the year. They literally had to make a rule change because of how little this guy spent on the cap.
The NFLPA rule changer. But, I think, though, Broski with the Lions, I think, though, when you look at their team last year, they ended up spending all that cap money because of the injuries and having to sign people. So, I mean, I get your argument, but
I don't think they did, man. And they're still sitting on like 40-something million now. Like, it's crazy. Like
now, but I'm talking during the season last year, they spent all of it throughout the season because when someone got hurt, they had to go out and sign someone, and they spent almost $40 million in cap bringing guys in to replace guys who were injured, and then moves him. So I agree with what you're saying.
They spent some of it on Z. They spent some of it on Zadarius Smith, but not the entire like $40 million. You know what I mean?
I mean, the other 20 or 30 guys they had to sign, they did.
I don't think they had to sign that many. They you know what I mean? Like, that's my whole thing. Like, they
signed about 20 guys, dude, and each of those guys is about $1 million a pop, roughly in that ballpark, $850,000 to $1 million or whatever. They spent some money. I mean, even a cheap player these days is like over $800,000 for a cheapie. For bottom end is $800,000 for a guy now. So but I get your argument, though. You're not wrong. But I'm saying is, I think the reason they're not spending is because they had so many injuries. They're assuming they're going to have to spend throughout the season like last year. I think, though, if I were a Lions fan, I'd want to see them spend another $20 million and bring some guys in, like go sign Judon. I mean, what's the $3 million going to hurt? He's probably better than the last guy you've got on your roster in that spot.
Yeah.
Go sign some of these guys and spend some of that money. So I agree with you there. But they're looking like, well, if someone gets hurt, we can get Judon later because no one's going to.
I just checked the breakdown. So they had $42 million in cap going into like available space going into last season, and they spent like $20 million of it because they said after, like, at the end of the season, they still had like $23 million left. So yes, they did spend some of it, but you're a contender. Why are you even sitting on $23 million in cap? Like, go for it, man. Go all in. And again, this year it's eerily similar. The Brad Holmes has like this weird thing with $42 million in cap space because that's roughly what they have now. They'll spend some of it, but I don't know, man. If you really think it's your time, like, make that trade, get that defensive end, get that elite, whatever you think it is you need, spend your money and go for it. Just my 2 cents.
I agree with them leaving a cushion of $5 to $10 million because of trade deadline or injuries. I mean, that's smart. I think most teams are like that. And how many times have you seen a team make a splash at trade deadline because they saved about $10 million? They make the splash at trade deadline because they can do it because they've got the money available and it propels them to the next level. I think that's smart business for these GMs. Keep $5 to $10 million for caps for trade deadline replacement.
But big difference between $5 to $10 million and $42 million. Yeah. You know what I mean?
A little bit big. I mean, you're telling me that you don't have faith in about half your team is going to be injured and you're going to have to do a lot of movement. I'm like, then get better players who are not going to be so injury prone.
I just wanted to throw out there if there's any NFL GMs watching. You said it's about $800,000 for like the bottom of the barrel worst players, right? Well, for $800,000, I could be the best at being the worst. I just want to say, like, I'm really slow and not very good. So $800,000, like.
I mean, I told Ken and Rob this the other day. That's my motto for the Packers. We're the best of the worst. That's kind of like their theme.
Here, let me pull up. I just pulled up over the cap real quick. I just picked the Bears because they come up quick. The cheapest player in the Bears roster right now, which is Theo Bennett's one of them, one of a handful making this, is $840,000. This is the cheapest contract I see on the Bears roster. And I bet if I go to any team, that'll be the cheapest contract. Austin Reed's $840,000. Ian Wheeler's getting $842,500. Let me go to the Packers really quick, but I guarantee you he'll be right around $840,000 is the bottom of the barrel. So we go to the Packers. The bottom of the barrel, hey, guess what? Julian Hicks is making $840,000.
You can make about $840,000 to get punched in the chest for an hour by Penei Sewell.
Yeah, let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders. And guess what? I guarantee you guess what the bottom dollar is going to be. And you guess this? Two guys are getting paid $0. Jonathan Sutherland and Jalen Smith. They just don't have a contract on them yet. $840,000 is your minimum contract now in the NFL. Oh, Broski dropped while I was doing that. Because I was on a different page. I mean, thank you, Nicholas. $840K is your bottom of the barrel guy. Bottom of the barrel, $840,000. I'll be like Joe if there's a GM watching.
I could be bottom of the barrel for $840,000.
I just want to see either of you guys take more than one hit from Penei Sewell. That's all I'm asking, just one.
Because if I'm making $840,000, I'm not starting, so I'm not going to be going up against Penei Sewell. I'll be on special teams or something like.
Yeah. Oh no! You're getting put in the rotation on the defensive line.
Hey, Joe and I can be the guy who runs out after the kick and retrieves the tee.
I'll do that for $200K.
Yeah,
I'll be the guy that puts the tee down.
But $840K is your bottom of the barrel. That's so we think of like these Purdy contracts and Fred Warner and these other guys. Like, dude, they're kind of in line. I mean, so then the San Francisco signing, I'm not shocked. I'm not whatever. And they've got an out. In 2 years, if it's not working, they'll get out. Just like in Green Bay, if it's not working, they can get out. Just like in Detroit, if it's not working with Goff, they can get out. The same thing will hold true for Caleb if he gets a second contract. Like, he's got to get to the second contract first. I mean, the tough thing with these quarterbacks is, look, it's not like with all these guys, they're good, right? But the problem is now everyone wants Patrick Mahomes kind of every year at a championship game. Dude, not everyone's going to get that. Sometimes you're just going to be good and have a good quarterback. Like Jordan Love may never be Aaron Rodgers. He may never be Brett Favre. He may never achieve their level of success, but he can still be a very good quarterback in this league and be very serviceable, and he's going to get paid, and he's going to make more money than Aaron Rodgers because of where the dynamics are. Look at Michael Jordan. What these guys are making now, Michael never made, and these guys aren't half as good as Michael Jordan. So, I mean, that's just the economics of professional sports, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with it, and we'll discuss that more tomorrow as we're out of time. JB is next. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Broski, of course, for being on. Sarah, have fun at your new job. We miss you. And don't forget to join JB next. Nicholas, if you're on X. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah, yo, it's game time. Ain't no messing around. Huddle Sports Network, the best in town. From NFL rumors to the latest trends, we got all your sports. Just tune in, my friends. Catch us on Roku, Fire Stick, take your pick. Facebook, YouTube, where the action's slick. Daily shows that drop like a bomb. From 10 to 11, it's Ken and Ken. Stay calm. Huddle up, catch the vibe, feel the rush. Get your news, get your fills in the clutch. Over 27 podcasts, we breaking it down. Join the team, Huddle Sports, wear the crown. Live every weekday, it's how we roll. Lions Talk with Jeremy B, we taking a stroll. From 11 to 12, don't miss a beat. We break down the game, make the info sweet. The Daily Huddle Podcast, noon to 1. CST Zone, we're just having fun. Toss your doubts, we bring the fact.